always try to preach in my classes whole food cooking, because that is where you're going to get your best benefit when you make your own food. And it doesn't always have to be a recipe, but just keep that in mind when you're cooking. Don't open up a lot of packages, but do a lot of cutting and, you know, sorting, getting veggies and things like that together, and varying ways that you get protein. So when I saw this book, I was elated. So this is the Fix It With Food by Michael Simon. Here's my book. Can you see it?
You bought it.
Yes, I like this so much that I had to buy a copy myself, like I did last month's book. And I was waiting for Deb to say, no, we have a copy for you. It didn't happen. So, but I bought my own and I love it. I wish I had the discipline to stay with, he has a 10-day reset. I might try. So pray for me. I think I'm going to try. But let me tell you about Michael Simon here. If you don't already know who he is, he was one of the co-hosts of The Chew. So, and that's a show that I reference a lot to when I do my cooking classes, because they were infamous for having the first row of testers. So that would be the only people who actually got to enjoy their recipes in the studio audience. So I always laugh and said, everybody in my class who has on a blue shirt, you all get samples today. So I guess that would just be Tim. So, and because this is what it seemed like, because I look across the chew and I'm like, blue shirt, blue shirt, blue shirt, you know, so they all got to eat today. So, but anyways, moving forward, he's the Chew, one of the Chew hosts. He's also been on Food Network shows. He's opened restaurants in Cleveland, in Detroit, Las Vegas. So this isn't your everyday home chef. He's been in it for a while. So I believe when he starts to give food advice that it's something that's tested, tried, and true, and it worked for him. And he does state in the book, you know, as with anything, this is really not a diet. This is kind of just getting back to having food that's going to help you avoid some health issues, avoid things that some foods can be caustic or inflammatory to your body. So he is just showing you a way to avoid those foods and enjoy other foods that are going to be beneficial to your health. And so, as I say as well, you know, as always, when trying something new, get doctor's advice. Plain and simple. Also, he suffers from rheumatoid arthritis and then leukoid lupus. So that lupus is lupus that it affects the skin. So his lupus is more outward. You can see the effects of it, and that was something that he mentioned in the book that he was noticing with his condition before he even knew what he had. He was noticing he was looking different, he wasn't feeling so well, he was sore, and he thought, oh, this is the job, you know, standing on my feet long hours because he's a professional chef, being old, aging. He thought this is all that comes with being his age and profession, and he found out he has lupus and he has rheumatoid arthritis. And rheumatoid arthritis isn't like your regular arthritis that just makes you ache. Rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune issue. So it really starts attacking your joints and your bones and stuff like that. So it can be quite painful. And so he found out that he started the New Year's resolution. That's what happened first. And he found out with his New Year's resolution that he was going to make himself feel better. And how could he do that? And he realized it was through food. And he did a lot of research while on the Chew, and he came up with his own eating plan, because I'm not going to say diet, eating plan, and the way he wanted to change the way he ate. One of the things that he found out was that one of his big food enemies was sugar, dairy, flour, and red meat. And, you know, everybody's different. Everybody's not going to succumb to those things like everybody else. But so Michael found out that dairy, the things that we try to avoid, sugars and flours, were things that set him off and that was causing his inflammation and his chronic pain. And so what he wanted to do was he wanted to find ways to combat that. So I just put a little oil in that pan. I'm going to start my sweet potatoes because that's the recipe that we're going to make. I just used, oh yeah, I was going to talk. The recipe says coconut oil. I didn't like my coconut oil this morning, so we're cheating. We're going to use some olive oil, but this is the recipe that we're going to use, the sweet potato and kale hash. So I wanted to kind of just get my sweet potatoes going while I was talking to you guys. And I chose this recipe because here at the cafe at my cooking school, we do sweet potato hash. So I was like, oh, this guy's on to something. So when I read the recipe, I'm like, we have something that's part of his 10-day reset on our menu. Look at me, go Z. So I had plenty of sweet potatoes, diced sweet potatoes, already ready. So I put some olive oil in my pan and I let my pan get hot first. Then I put my oil in my pan. Now I have my diced sweet potatoes in here in the oil, and I'm going to add some sea salt. And remember, it might look like to you that I'm using a lot of salt or pepper, but I'm adding it. I'm not letting some manufacturer or someone else add it. I'm in control, and I can guarantee you that by doing this recipe, whole food, you adding the ingredients, you won't even touch the tip of the amount of sodium a packaged or prepackaged food has in it for the day. You won't even begin to get your daily intake of overage of sodium. So especially if you're someone who's watching your sodium. That's a little fresh cracked black pepper put in there. So I just wanted to get that going because I don't think you guys want to sit here and watch me fry or skillet fry sweet potatoes. So back to the book. So, he learned the things that were his triggers and he wanted to try to avoid those things. So he had a little advice, of things to stay away from, but what may be a trigger for one person may not be a trigger for another person. He says everybody's different. I don't feel that I have a gluten insensitivity as much as I have a carbohydrate insensitivity. So, for someone who may be sensitive to gluten, he addresses that as well. And then sugars as well. I just made an admission today about my sugar habit that I won't get into because those of you who know me already know. So in the book, I like this because the book is in different parts. He goes into how to use the book, and then he shows you like the top inflammatory ingredients that you should have. And then he talks about your pantry. Just toss this around. You want those sweet potatoes to get soft. Here. You guys always miss it. I'm so sad that you guys can't smell what's going on because it smells so good. So he talks about what should be in your pantry and kind of gives you a grocery list for his 10-day reset. So the 10-day reset was something that he kind of did to get himself off of conventional food and start to address those inflammatory and chronic pain issues. So that's the first part of the book, is that 10-day reset. And it gives you some advice on how to do the reset. Read over it, look at the recipes. Don't commit to it if it's something that you're not interested in. Especially if you're a big meat eater, then you're going to have some withdrawal issues because these recipes are virtually, they're not really vegan, but they are vegetarian for the most part. And they seek protein from plant-based sources. So protein is still a big part of what goes on in this book, but there's not a lot of meat. There is some fish, but not a lot of meat. And if you're someone who's avoiding nightshades and beans, then you might want to take a look at the different recipes before you get going. And he tells you that. So, and it gives you like a 7-day sample menu that you can follow, and it gives you all the recipes for it. So I think that's like awesome for all 7 days. And then he starts to talk about his next issue. So that is the flour-free fix. And so that is things that the gluten and wheat sensitivity. And he noticed that a lot of people who think that they are gluten or wheat intolerant or sensitive, it's not even really the wheat itself, it's the process. It's how it's processed and the additives and the things that we put in our white flour are things that in other countries are basically banned. They're not even allowed in those foods in other countries. So he talks about those, the bromides and the things that make bleach white and light and fluffy for better baking. He talks about those things, and those things are the things that make a lot of people sick. So he noticed that when he ate food from bakeries that milled their own flour and they used the whole germ of the wheat, that he didn't have those issues. And he even talked a little bit about when he was in Italy, he ate pasta all the time and didn't have those issues. And so, he says, if you're going to go into it, look for these certain things, and he tells you keywords. And my big one, especially with flour, it says, made from whole wheat flour, made from whole wheat. Okay, yeah, it has to be made from whole wheat, the flour does. But how much of the grain of the wheat did you strip away to make this flour? And that's what happens to white flour. The outer casing and only in the germ, and you're just left with it, with the endosperm, and you're just left with the germ, all of the nutrients are gone. So then they bleach the flour, and then after that, they add nutrients back into it. And that's when you start getting those chemicals and all those things added back in. And preservatives to make the flour more shelf stable. If you got a good bag of whole wheat flour, it would probably be in a refrigerated section, or it would have a very short shelf life. And I always tell people, when you're going to use whole wheat flour, to make sure that you store it in the freezer, because it doesn't have a long shelf life. Okay, I think I wonder I thought I was ringing. Hello, what are you doing? Oh, I'm doing a cooking class right now. So, my sweet potatoes here. And I can tell you guys, don't boil your sweet potatoes. It takes a minute to make them soft. You can also just partially bake your sweet potatoes. So instead of an hour, bake these for like 20 to 30 minutes, and they'll be soft for you too as well. If you don't want to do them over on top of the stove. So you have you have options. You have issues. You have options for your sweet potatoes. So I'm just going to give them another minute. And then he was also saying that switching products and maybe going organic for some people who have mild sensitivity may be the way to go. But as always, with any type of medical advice, seek your physician, because you never know. But he just wanted to stick that out there. And I find this really daunting or ironic that in his flour-free episodes here, all of these things, like things that we normally would like the risottos and like regular pasta noodles, he did the zucchini noodles. And Deb can tell you, I love zucchini noodles, and things that we would normally make with pasta or other kinds of grains, he substituted. Even the spaghetti squash with arugula pesto, yum. Yeah, so I was just like, I'm loving this cookbook. So I was really feeling this cookbook. So, okay, and then I'm going to talk about this last chapter, and then we will finish off our recipe. And I'm going to add just a little bit more. This is olive oil that I'm using, you guys. But the recipe that he has is for coconut oil, excuse me. So he has coconut oil. Then there's the sugar-free fix. So I thought, you know what, I'll just skip over this chapter. I don't have a sugar issue. That's somebody else's problem. But so I thought, you know what, let me just get in there. So he said the thing that makes it so dangerous for us is that a lot of things that we eat that are sweet are made with a lot of highly processed sugars. The corn syrup, the white granulated cane sugar, all of those things have no nutritional value, and they're highly addictive once you get them in that form. So he noticed that also with that, he was experiencing more pain, and just things that go along with sugar, weight gain, blah, 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 highs and lows, because your body can't process that type of highly processed sugar. It's useless to your body. It only works for about 20 or 30 minutes, and then you crash. And so he was saying there are other ways to look for different types of sugars, like your honey, maple syrup, but not just any type of honey and any type of maple syrup. If you get those things in their purest form, that's when they're going to be most beneficial. So he mentions keywords like 100% pure maple syrup, that's what you want to look for, or raw honey. Even sometimes when you look and you get honey from the farmer's market, you might see little particles floating out or piece of a honeycomb. That's when you know you're going to have the good stuff. People aren't going to pay money to fool you. They're just going to tell you, hey, this is honey syrup. You hear that? Or it's maple breakfast syrup. Then that's not 100%. That's going to be maple syrup mixed with corn syrup or some other kind of sweetener mixed in that. So those are things that you might want to make sure that you look for when you're doing that. Also, he was talking about when you get the good things, they're going to cost. And like my husband always says, and I always tell you guys, you can give it to the medical professionals or you can eat it. Somebody's going to take it. So the best thing to do is eat your very best, because you're going to turn around and spend that money back in health care, and you don't want to do that. You'd rather say I went and take that money and go to Italy and say I had good pasta, versus saying I've been in the hospital for whatever because I have an issue due to me eating, unhealthy food. So another ironically, when I flipped the page of this, I thought, you know what, this is just so wrong. If you're having a sugar issue, why would he put gluten-free chocolate chip cookies on the first page? And all I could think was, how? So, I read it because I was like, wait, is this? Yeah. So he uses raw honey. So there's the word in there. And he uses bittersweet chocolate chips. So he's able to do that. And then because it's gluten-free, he uses almond flour. So because I bought a book for myself, I will be trying that recipe. Maybe it will help me with my addiction. Okay, I finally got my sweet potatoes the way I like it. And so now I'm going to add, so this recipe, which is in the book, it has coconut oil, sweet potatoes, some salt and pepper, kale, bell pepper, scallions, green onions, cumin, paprika, and eggs. This is a breakfast dish on the 10-day reset, but you can actually use it for any meal. Because eggs, you can enjoy eggs any time of the day, I feel. And then I feel so privileged, you all, because now this tells me to add some more oil in that. And you guys remember, I'm adding the oil, nobody's adding it for me. So I say about now, I've probably used 3 or 4 tablespoons of olive oil in this whole recipe. So I put my bell pepper in here and my scallion. Doesn't it smell good? Yeah. This is a familiar smell in here because we actually made this, so I was like, I'm all for it. And the bell pepper, I wanted everyone to like see everything, so I made larger chunks of bell pepper in this. So you can see that there are larger pieces in there. Because I wanted everyone that, you know, you're having an experience. You don't want to feel like, oh, I'm eating healthy. You want to say, this is a really, you know, nice dish, a really nice tasting dish. And you can see and taste everything that's involved. It's intentional. So we got our bell pepper and onion in here. We're just going to make them soft a little bit. And I'm going to add a little bit of cumin to this. This is what really sets it off. And some paprika. And it doesn't take much paprika to make a difference in a recipe, but if you put too much in there, you will make your recipe taste kind of bitter. So you don't want to do that. Kind of have to have that happy medium. A little bit goes a long way. Didn't it take on a whole new aroma when you put that in there? Tim, do you need a towel? Are you drooling? Under. So, my stuff here. It's looking so pretty. I just want to keep sharing it. And this is another thing I like about the recipes, is that all the recipes in the book are colorful. You're eating the rainbow, so you know you're doing something good. You know, look at that. We have orange and yellow and green, and we're going to add even more green. So I got this kale from the Villages Grown. And I got a lot when I got it. The Villages Grown, I have to tell you about them. The Villages Grown, hey Villages Grown. Shout out to my peeps over there. Is a awesome place. More salt because the kale. It's an awesome place. What it is a garden, an agricultural mecca. They are interested in bringing nutrition back into food. So everything that they grow, and we're talking about hundreds of acres of hydroponic gardening, and they are interested in doing co-ops with the community and helping to bring food, nutrition back to food. And so it's an awesome place. I need to get them to in here to talk to us about what they do over there. You guys would not believe, it's so awesome. So the kale here, they believe that as soon as they pick something, it has 24 hours to get to your mouth. Not to a location, your mouth. That's their end game because they want you to get the food at its height. So that's their whole goal, is to get it to your mouth and get you the most nutrient dense food that they can. So I think it's like just awesome. And I went there and I was just amazed because you think, oh, dig up a little dirt, put something down in it. How hard can that be? Which it isn't difficult. You can grow stuff at home. But there's a science behind certain things, and they are really interested in the science part. And again, like I said, getting food, the healthy part of food back in food. So I'm mixing our kale in here. Oh, here's a funny story about when I went there. So they take me into the greenhouse. Awesome. Wasn't even thinking. And one of the, I think it was, I don't know if it was Haley. And she says, Chef Z, where's your chef? Here we go. Now I got my eggs going. So I just want to get, you just want to get your whites all the white of your egg cooked and just a little bit of the yolk if you're someone who likes runny eggs. And I think they're really good because they kind of blend in with the dish more. Anybody here don't like runny eggs? You don't like? I don't want runny eggs, no runny eggs for me. Okay, so. But you know what? I always thought they were gonna taste weird, but they don't. Runny eggs don't taste weird. But no fooling you, huh, Kim? No, you, huh? They need to be runny, but I'm just flipping it a little bit just to give it a little cook, but not, I want some yolk in the recipe. And then we have her done egg. So, yeah, so when we crack these babies open, they're going to be. There's a question? No, oh, so when we open these, they aren't like his picture because I cooked them a little bit more. Harsh. Okay. So we have, let's do that a little bit so we see which one's done. That one's the one that's not done. So we can see what's going on here. So this is our recipe, and you guys, this was simple. This took about not even 15 minutes. So this is, you don't have to say, oh no, you didn't take the chicken out, dinner's ruined, you know, everything's all there. And like I said, my only thing is with the sweet potato. If you get a raw sweet potato, then you most definitely want to allow some time to cook the sweet potato. But you could also buy diced sweet potato, already diced, from Walmart. Aldi's has it in the frozen section, so does Publix. And pop it in the microwave and kind of get it going. And then you can get these sweet potatoes going. So here is our recipe.
We have a question. Oh,
yeah.
Let me see. Look at that.
I cook my eggs because some people don't like them. So, and the question is?
What kind of pans are you using?
Oh, really? Yeah, they're Palma, and I found these at like Ross because they're induction friendly. Because this is an induction cooktop. I think that's what it is. I don't know. They didn't pay me, so I don't know. I think they're called Palma or something like that. I will entertain us and look on the bottom. Yeah. Oops, look at me. I love them. Yeah, look at under Palm or Palma or something like that when you look for it. Yeah, I love them. I love them.
Do you use them at home?
No, because I use something else at home.
You use it at home? Oh, come on.
They didn't pay me either.
Is that like Teflon coated or is it
It's ceramic.
Okay.
So it's ceramic. I use Pampered Chef at home.
Pampered Chef.
Mm-hmm. They didn't pay me. It's not an endorsement. But they do. I'll be on here all day cooking with it. But no, I don't. I use that at home because I just replaced the set that I had years ago. So, but that is our recipe. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you the next time.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining.